Yo, what is up guys? And today we're going to be ranking all of the Honkai Star Rail characters in the game and how they rank and fit into a tier list. Now we're going to be looking at these units based on how much content you can actually use them in and how strong they are actually in those areas of content. Now keep in mind that this is my own opinion guys. You guys can disagree with me. If you guys have any disagreements, let me know in the comments down below. But this is what I've seen from testing these units and from watching some gameplay of other players as well. Now, the first unit we're going to rank is Yanqing, and this unit I'm going to put in the B tier. And the reason why I'm going to put this unit in the B tier is, although this unit has a lot of damage, the thing is when you do get hit once, your damage gets reduced significantly. And in this game, there's so much AoE damage going off, especially cleave damage, and it's pretty hard to actually not get hit. You're going to get hit more likely than not in most battles. So for that reason, I'm going to have to put this unit in the B tier. If later on there's like a way to actually stop this unit from getting hit more frequently, then probably will go up in tiers because the damage is pretty good. But for now, I've considered this unit, especially for a single target DPS unit, in the B tier. Next we have Arlan guys. This unit is going to be in the C tier. Honestly, this unit does pretty decent damage. The thing is that he is very dangerous to use because he will sacrifice his own HP to do damage. He has pretty decent single target and also some cleave with his ult. And for a lightning unit, he's pretty good. Just keep in mind though, he is kind of risky to use because you kind of run the risk of getting one shot, especially in harder areas of content such as like simulated universe. Next up we have Asta guys, one of the fire support units in the game. This unit is very powerful. We're going to put her in the A tier. She's a very good breaker. If you have any boss in the game that is weak to fire and you bring her, you will be able to constantly break the boss pretty easily. She's very powerful at breaking. The speed buff and the attack buff is very nice as well to help your team actually lap the boss and take a lot of turns. I think this is one of the best free-to-play units in the game. If you need a good support unit and you don't have any that you pulled for, like Bronya or Tingyun, then Asta is a very good option to have. Even though she won't really, do too much damage, her defense breaking and her shield breaking on her skill is very powerful, especially in situations where you're fighting bosses, because when it bounces 5 times on fire weak bosses, like, you will do pretty much almost a third of their weakness bar the majority of the time. Next we have Bailu guys, a healer. She is very powerful guys. She's going to be the best healer in the game by far because she can revive and her healing throughput is insane until Lu Chao comes out. And the only reason you would ever take another healer over her is if you need more cleansing, because Bailu doesn't really have cleansing as opposed to Natasha, who can actually cleanse. But S tier unit because she can revive units, making her very good in like simulated universe and just like anywhere honestly, because sometimes your units get one shot, especially when you are in the early game because you're not that strong. So very good unit for that reason. Next we have Bronya guys. I think she is probably the best unit in the game. Automatic S tier, best support unit in the game with her attack buff. She's very good at supporting your team, and she also does pretty decent damage as well because she is wind. And if you're running her with like a Seele or any other hard hitting single target damage dealer, that unit will hit super hard automatically. I think Bronya you can fit into any comp, and with Bronya, if you pair her with another support like Tingyun, you actually don't really need a healer or a tank because you just lap the enemy over and over, and she's very powerful. Next we have Clara guys. I'm going to put Clara in the high A tier. Some people might put her in the S tier, but I think she's a high A tier. She does a lot of damage. The fact that she can actually taunt the enemy and counterattack makes her very strong. If you run her in certain team comps with like March 7 and some healing, she becomes a very powerful threat. And there's a lot of simulated universe team comps you could run with her with the Elation path, and she becomes very strong in that regard. Heng guys, this is also going to be probably a B tier unit. I probably rank him above Yanqing just because he does a lot of damage. He is free to play and his single target damage is great. It's just the fact that he kind of needs a lot of support around him, and later on once you get better gear, you're going to start to see that he doesn't do as well as some other units, but he's still very good. I think wind element is not that great though, because the best unit in the game being Bronya is wind element, so you don't really need too many of the wind element, and Bronya is very capable of actually weakness breaking herself. But I think Heng is a very good option. There's just going to be better single target option units in the game right now. Next we have Gepard. So I think Gepard, very debatable. I think he's either high A or low S. Let's put him in the high A for now. I think Gepard is a very good tank. Obviously, the fact that he can revive himself if he dies is very good. He also has a freeze, which is very nice. And the biggest thing is his ultimate with a fat shield on your entire team. The only thing is, I do think, I'm a big fan of the main character, the Trailblazer preservation tank. So for that reason, I'm going to put him in the A tier because I do think there is a better tank in the game. Herta, guys, good AoE farmer, but not that good. She's going to be a D tier unit. There's not going to be many D tier units, if any, besides her, because, her damage is very low. And honestly, if you use her to farm, the thing is, like, she does no damage. And also, her animation with her AoE cleave thing takes pretty long, so it's pretty annoying. So I'm going to put her in the D tier. Next, Himeko, guys, very good AoE damage dealer. We're going to put her in the A tier as well. She's a very good farmer, one of the best farmers in the game, one of the best AoE damage dealers in the game, probably the best right now, actually. But later on, that is to change when we have the new unit release after Seele's banner, but very good option. She's a good fire DPS, right? But the thing is, you don't really need her later on because like AoE farming is cool, it makes it faster, but the hardest content is going to be like single target, especially right now with like simulated universe and also forgotten halls right now. So Himeko, although very powerful, just isn't that great right now because you want to prioritize single target damage currently. Next, we have Hook. So Hook is very weird because if you build an entire team comp around him, she's actually like S tier. But the thing is, like, as a standalone unit, if you are going to run her in a normal team comp, I'm going to say she's probably B tier somewhere around like here, just because, you need a perfect team comp around her, meaning you need a lot of dots, right? So the best option to run with her will be Sampo, which we'll talk about later. With Sampo, she can be S tier in certain team comps, but as a standalone unit, we're going to put her in the B tier for now. The next units, guys, they're not out yet. We're going to update the tier list as they come out, so we're going to skip over them. Next, we have March 7th. I'm going to have March 7 in the top of the B tier. I think at the start of the game's release, like, she was very overrated because she's a free-to-play tank and she's very good, but once you get the Trailblazer main character to the preservation tree, there's not really a reason to use her for the most part. Sure, you can make certain team comps with her that like counterattack with like Hook and stuff like that, or not Hook, Clara and stuff like that, but for the most part, I think she's pretty lackluster just because even though she does have an AoE freeze, like, I'm just a big fan of the main character, so I'm just going to always put other tanky units, preservation units a little bit lower. Next, we have Natasha. So hot take, guys, some people put her in the A tier, B tier, they think Bailu's so much better. I'm going to actually put her in the S tier. Not a lot of people might agree with this, but hear me out. The reason why I have her in the S tier is because of her cleansing. And in Simulated Universe, there is so much stuff you need to cleanse, especially for like World 5 and World 6 with Kefka, and also the World 6 boss as well being Kakalia. So the thing is, like, I think she's very, very strong because right now, currently, there's so much stuff you need to cleanse and there's not really a lot of cleansing in this game. The only other cleanser would be like March 7, but I think Natasha as a standalone unit, because of her healing, is going to be a lot better. And also because of the fact that there's not really a lot of good physical units right now. And in Simulated Universe, she becomes very, very strong because she has a lot of HP. And if you run her on the Path of Abundance, you can actually abuse Dewdrop and the other blessing that will actually transfer HP into damage. And she can actually do some considerable damage. Not a lot, but considerable. Also, if you get her to her Eidolon 6 or Constellation 6, she actually does decent damage with her basic attack. Next, we have Pela, guys. So actually, I'm a very big fan of this unit. I think she's very similar to Asta in how she ranks. Her defense break is insane. The only thing is her damage isn't that great. It's decent, but not like super powerful, so you can use her as like a sub DPS. The thing is, there's going to be better support options later on once you pull like Bronya and Tingyun, but for now, if you don't have those units, she's a very, very good option, especially if you need an ice damage unit, and also if you're running like a single target high damage unit like Seele or like Heng, for example, then she's a very, very good choice, or even like Sushang, I guess. Next, we have Qingque, guys, one of the RNG units in the game. Honestly, this unit, there's like a way to actually like almost guarantee that you get good draws, but the thing is, this unit, she just gets outshined by a lot of units, right? If you need a good single target DPS, just use Heng instead of her. If you want more AoE, just use like Serval, who's also lightning, right? Or just like any other unit. I think her damage needs a little bit of a buff, and she's a little bit inconsistent, so she's going to be in the C tier. I think I'll put her above Arlan. Sampo, guys, same thing as Hook, right? They pair very well together, so I'll put them together, but I think he's a pretty decent DPS. I think standalone, he is better than Hook. I think he's like a little bit worse than Heng though, in terms of raw damage, unless you pair him with Hook though, so I'm going to put him in the B tier, probably smack dab in the middle for now. Seele, guys, we're going to put her in the S tier. She's very strong, the best damage dealer in the game. Although all of her abilities are purely single target, she can actually clear waves very quickly, because if you kill a unit with anything, you'll actually gain another turn, and this works with her ultimate as well, making it so you can chain your turns very, very easily with her. She's very powerful and very fast and hits super, super hard. Next up on the list, we have Serval, guys. So honestly, I use Serval for the majority of the game because I didn't pull anything good. I think she's probably the bottom of B tier, top of C tier though, just because although she does do a lot of AoE damage, she's very reliant on her dots, which can be kind of bad because you don't get a lot of upfront damage, and also she is not that fast, making her a little bit weaker than the other units, but I think she's pretty good. Her base damage isn't that high, but she's a very good AoE damage dealer and very good farmer. But like I said, same thing with Himeko. you don't really need a lot of AoE damage right now. It's better to just have a lot of single targets, so I think I'm going to put her in the C tier because her single target damage is pretty lackluster. Next we have another unit that is coming out later, and now we're going to use Tingyun, so I'm going to put her in the S tier as well. I think that she is very comparable to Seele. I don't know which is better, but honestly I think both of these support units in Tingyun and also Bronya are the best units in the game, because if you pair them with any single target damage dealer, that unit becomes 10 times more powerful just because they're so good at attack buffing. They can energy regenerate, they can give you crit damage, right? Just really powerful support units. Currently the support units are very powerful. They just buff your DPS unit to being like super strong. Next up we have Sushang, one of the few physical units in the game. She's a very good single target DPS actually. I'm going to put her in the A tier. I think she's a very good replacement to Seele if you don't have Seele yet, if you're looking for a good single target DPS. She's very powerful with her damage and very fun to use. The thing is, if you do have Seele though, there's not really a reason to use her unless you're using her against a physical weak boss for like Forgotten Halls or something. So pretty good single target DPS, but there is a better option, Seele, who is limited, so maybe you guys don't have her and you want to use Sushang instead. Now for the Trailblazer. So the first one is going to be Preservation, guys. I'm going to put in the S tier right below Bailu. I think she is one of the best units in the game, especially if you're looking for sustain. Her AoE shield every turn is insane, AoE provoke is insane, AoE damage reduction buffs to your team is insane, and she also does decent AoE damage while actually having some decent breaking capabilities as a fire element unit. I think she's very strong and definitely a must-have, especially because later on in Forgotten Halls you need 2 teams anyways, so you definitely want to build her, and you'll also realize that you're going to have to actually build her up anyways, because later on, once they release more versions of her, she'll probably be really good in other paths as well. Next we have Welt, next we're going to use the physical Trailblazer as the male. This unit I don't think is that great. I think early game he's like decent, but later on doesn't really do that much. I'm going to put him in the C tier because honestly does pretty okay single target damage and AoE damage, right, with the ulti, but also there's not a lot of good physical units in the game, so there's only 3, right? You have Sushang, Natasha, and also the Trailblazer, so because of that we're going to put him in the C tier because, you know, honestly you can use him as a physical damage dealer if you need him and you don't have like Sushang, but for the most part not really a reason to use him because the preservation path is so good. And last but not least, guys, we have Welt. So Welt is an imaginary element unit, which automatically will make him at least A tier, and because he's so good, because he does decent damage, and also because he can slow down the enemy and allow you to actually lap the boss pretty easily, he's an A tier unit automatically. Honestly, you can even put him in the S tier and argue for him, but I'm going to keep him in the A tier for now just because I think the S tier units are just a little bit better, but still a very powerful 5-star unit. If you guys have him, you should definitely use him. Imaginary units are so rare, and he's very strong. Now that's pretty much it for this tier list though, guys. I'll be updating this as more units release. Keep in mind that these are just my opinions, guys. Like honestly, you can use a team full of like C tier, B tier, D tier units and still clear the game pretty easily. But honestly, if you have units that are better, you probably want to use them to make your life easier. And just keep in mind that this is all subject to change in the future as units come out and power creeps happen. But for now, as of this video's release, this is what I think about the current state of the units in the game. That being said, guys, I hope you guys found this video helpful, guys. If you guys disagree with anything, let me know in the comments down below. I'm always open to other ideas, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.